Okay, so we were just talking about color and making Vim easy to read. So along those lines, you can specify a color scheme. By default, Vim includes several color schemes. You can configure this with a color scheme command. You can also see the available color schemes by typing color space and then just hitting Control D. By the way, you can use colo or color for the shortened version of the color scheme command. Just try them out and see which one is your favorite. The default one is fine for most people, really. Personally, I like slate, so I'm just going to tab over here until I get to slate and then press enter to use that color scheme. And if you want to configure this in your file here, you can just do color, colo or color scheme, and then specify the name, for example, slate. If you want to add a custom color scheme, just search the internet for Vim color schemes. There are plenty of resources out there, and there are tons of different color schemes to choose from. How you install a custom color scheme is to create a .vim directory in your home directory, and then a subdirectory under that called colors. For example, on Linux, it might be something like this: home json.vim colors. And then on Mac, it would be something like users json.vim colors. Now what you would do is just place the color scheme file in the colors directory. And so now when you restart Vim, you'll see the additional color schemes available to you as an option. So far, we've covered the set command and the color scheme command. Next up is the map command. The map command is used to change the behavior of typed keys. Said another way, a mapping allows you to bind a set of Vim commands to a single key. The most common use is to define a series of commands for a function key. The function keys are typically unassigned by default. The format of the map command is map, followed by the key you want to map, followed by the key strokes that you want to be typed when that map key is pressed. For example, we could assign F2 to insert your name and address. To do that, you would use something like map, opening bracket, F2, close bracket, lowercase I to enter insert mode, John Smith, bracket CR, and that represents a carriage return or an enter key. 123 Main Street, CR, any town, New York, CR, and then ESC, close bracket. That is very similar to a macro. Here's a list of characters you can use with a map command. So if you need to use the backspace key in your mapping, you would use bracket, BS, close bracket, and so on. If you wanted to map Control D, for example, you would use open bracket or less than sign there, followed by C, followed by a dash, and then D. Finally close with a greater than sign or closing bracket. Mapping Control E would be bracket C dash E, close bracket, and so on. Let's say you happen to edit a lot of HTML documents and you want a quick way to get an unordered list started. Let's map that to F3. So we'd use the map command, F3, the key we're going to press, and now the commands that will be typed when that key is pressed. So we'll enter insert mode with I, use UL, CR is the enter key, space, LI for a list item, and then a closing list item tag, another enter, and then we'll hit escape to get out of insert mode, 0 to go to the beginning of the line, I to enter insert mode, and then the closing UL tag, and we'll hit escape again here, and then we'll do K to move up one line, C to start a change command, and IT, which is the text object for an enter tag. Now let me hit escape to get out of my insert mode here and write this change to the file. I actually want to demonstrate this and let you see what that looks like. So you already know that the Vimrc stands for Vim run commands, and what we can do is exit out of Vim, restart Vim, and these maps will be in place because all these commands are going to be read in. However, you don't have to exit out and come back in if you want to. You can actually use a Vim command, which is :source or SO for short, and then you can provide a file, and this source command will execute all those commands in that file. And of course, we want to do that with the file we're editing, which is our .vimrc file. So I'll do that here now, vimrc, and press enter. Now all of our commands are read into our current configuration here. So I'm just going to hit O and insert a couple lines at the bottom of here. And now I'm going to hit F3 and show you what happens. Now you can see what pressing F3 does, and it puts us right into insert mode right there in the middle of this list item. So I can say thing 1, for example, press escape, and now I'm out of insert mode. I'm just going to hit U to undo that. So now let's say you want to quickly add other list items. So now let's map F4 to something like this. Let me go up a couple of lines here and just put these together. We want the F4 command to do this. We want to make sure that we are in normal mode by pressing escape. O, which is going to start a line below us. And then we're just going to type LI, closing LI. And then we'll hit escape here. And then we'll use the change command with CIT, which means change inner tag. Let me save this to the file. I'm going to hit S and press up to use my history that I love so much and resource in this file. Hit enter. And now the F2, F3, and F4 commands are available to us. So I'm going to move down here to the bottom of the file with J. Let me press function 3 or F3. And then let's type in thing 1. And now when I'm done with that, I'll just hit escape, then type F4. We get another line, thing 2. We'll hit escape there and do F4 again. And now we get thing 3 and so on and so forth. So you can see how these mappings can come in handy and how you can make Vim do pretty much anything you need or want it to do. I'll just hit U a couple of times here to undo that change. Now it's important to remember that when you're remapping keys, you can actually override existing Vim commands. If you want to do that, that's totally fine. You can do that. I don't typically recommend that, but again, Vim is powerful and lets you do pretty much anything you want. As you already know, Vim has many commands, so it can be hard to find a key that doesn't already have a purpose. In order to get around this challenge, Vim provides what it calls a leader key. By default, the leader key is the \. What this does is gives you your very own namespace that won't collide with any existing Vim commands. So many people start their custom mappings with the leader key. For example, if you wanted a quick way to save a file, you could create a mapping like this. We'll do map leader W to :W enter. So let me do that. And also let me just source in this file, press enter. And so now if I were to type \W :W enter will be executed and your file will be saved. If you didn't use the leader in this example, then you would have overridden the W command, which you already know moves forward by a word. By the way, if you don't like the default leader key of \, you can change it with this. Let map leader equal, and then put whatever key you want, a comma for example, and then close that in quotes. Make sure you place this statement before the special leader variable, otherwise mapping will use the default leader key. So let me do that. Let me just DD this line and do a capital P to paste it above the command there. And then I can use W here to write our changes, and I will source this file again. And now when we type "W, the command :W enter was executed. You can use the map command by itself without any arguments to see the current mappings. That's a quick introduction to mapping, but that takes care of most people's needs in that area. Of course, if you want to explore more on this topic, then you can check out the help with :H, mapping, and pressing enter there. So that's how you can create a Vimrc file by hand. However, you can also just get everything configured the way you like it while you're using Vim, and then use this make Vimrc command to write out your settings to your Vimrc file. The mkvimrc command writes out all the map and set commands in such a way that when these commands are executed, the current key mappings and options will be set to the same values. Let's use it now with mkvimrc and press enter. It gives you a warning that you already have a .vimrc file. If you want to overwrite that file, then you have to use an exclamation mark at the end of that command to force it. By the way, you can use this command, make vimrc, and provide another path so you can see what it's going to create before you overwrite your file. For example, I could just say this, test vimrc, and hit enter, and that file is created. But I'm actually going to overwrite my vimrc file. So let me do this, mkvimrc exclamation mark to force the overwriting of my .vimrc file. Even though you didn't see anything change, what happened is actually this .vimrc file that I'm currently editing was actually replaced. So I can reload it by typing :E and pressing enter. Just going to hit GG here to go to the very top of the file. And it's pretty obvious right off the bat that we didn't go over all the commands you see here, but of course you can always look up the help for each one of them if you want to. Some of them actually come from the system-wide Vimrc file, and other lines are created by the mkvimrc command itself. Quickly, I'm just going to go through a few of these. First off, vmap is key mapping for just visual mode, meaning that that particular mapping is only valid in visual mode, not normal mode, not in command mode. Nmap is key mapping for just normal mode. By default, key mappings are recursive, so if you use a mapped key in another key mapping, it gets expanded there as well. What no remap does is disables that functionality. It essentially disables recursive key mapping for that map. So V no remap is the visual version of no remap, and N no remap is the normal mode version of no remap. Let me jump to the bottom of this file with Shift G. Here at the bottom of the file, you can see several set commands. However, the very last line of this file is what's known as a mode line. What you can do is embed Vim settings within a file at the very bottom or the very top of that file. You place these mode lines as a comment. For Vimrc files, commented lines begin with a double quote. If you were doing this in another type of file, it could be a £sign or something else. Here the mode line is at the very bottom of the file, and what it's telling Vim to do is execute the set ft equals vim command. ft, by the way, is short for file type. So it forces Vim to treat this as a Vimrc file type. You might want to do something similar to this. For example, if you're editing a C source code file, but it doesn't end in the normal .c extension, you can force Vim to treat it like a C source code file with set ft equals c. The syntax of the mode line is important. White space has to come before Vim, then you use a colon followed by the set command, and then end the set command with another colon. If you want to see more information on this, you can type :h mode line. I want to point out that your Vimrc file doesn't have to be anywhere near this complicated. Just use it to set whatever defaults you like and find useful. I like to make things as simple as possible, so my personal Vimrc file is really short. Typically, I use a dark terminal, unlike I'm doing here to teach, so I set the background to dark. I also like the slate color scheme, so I just set that there as well. I enjoy having the extra help Wild menu provides, and finally I like to see my cursor position at all times. Now that's a total of 4 lines. That's it. That's really all I need. Again, you don't have to get carried away with all these crazy options. Just keep it simple and use what makes Vim work well for you.